appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my dumb ass. Like and subscribe. So, it seems that, excuse me, seems that Sony, in their infinite wisdom, has postponed their state of play, or whatever they want to call it, a freaking game showcase or whatever, to kind of highlight all the games they're gonna have, or they were gonna have, or games that are coming up and stuff. The problem is not that they postponed it, is why they postponed it, right? So it seems that, I mean, it's a rumor that they did this, right? But it seems that the reason why they would postpone a state of play that was supposed to be on the 20th, I think they're supposed to announce it on the 17th, and it was supposed to come out on the 20th. Seems like they delayed it, postponed it, whatever, because they don't want to give Microsoft any fuel in this whole acquisition deal, right? I bet you that there's a whole bunch of exclusive deals and things that they did, because that's their whole business model. And they can't show that they're actually doing the things that they're crying about in terms of what Microsoft would do with Activision Blizzard King when they acquire them. So I'm like, yo, this is like, okay, bottom line is, if the CMA does not let this go through, they're corrupt. I'm going to say this right now. They are corrupt, because they are pointing out that, oh, if Microsoft does this, it's just the wording. The wording is basically not even about the consumers. It's all about protecting Sony. And I'm like, wait, no, that's not how this works. So Jim Ryan is running the CMA. That's what I'm saying. He's got friends in the CMA, and they're like, yeah, man, you said wash my hand, wash your hands, oi, mate. All that good stuff. So, nah, it's dirty, crooked politics all over this. And Microsoft, like I said before, they're getting tired of it. And so they're specifically pointing out the fact that Sony is doing these practices that they're being accused, their future, assuming that Microsoft would do the same thing. Sony is guilty of doing these things already. And they pointed this out to the CMA. And the CMA don't want to hear that, because it's true. And that's their boy Jim Ryan. We got to be on the side of Jim Ryan. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. The only way it makes sense is if somebody's greasing them palms at the CMA, Sony. And I understand lobbyists and all this stuff. Transmission still falling out. I understand how lobbyists and all these things work. But this, actually, you know what? I was about to say, is this different? No, it's not. This is the same. Jim Ryan is lobbying to block this deal, this business deal, because it's bad for his business lobbies. So they say,
yo, what can we do? What, you need a new car or something? You need a yacht? I can hook you up so you can get the Sony yacht.
Then they're like, ooh, a yacht is nice. I think I want a yacht. And that's they shake each other's hands, they do each other favors, and that's what happens. And I feel like that's what's happening with this CMA and Jim Ryan situation. And the fact that Jim Ryan is doing all these things and he's saying all these things is proving that Sony is in a, I mean, I know we're saying, oh, Sony is scared and Sony is this and Sony is that. But it kind of proves, like, if you look at what Sony's doing and what they're proposing and how much importance they're putting into one title, Call of Duty, it shows me that I really didn't look at it this way before, but it shows me that Sony is really not as strong as we all think. They're making their money from Call of Duty. That's probably the most money. That's a giant percentage of the money that they make every year. So once that's taken away, right? Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard King, right? Boom, right? Right away, Sony loses money because they have to pay Microsoft 30%. Wait, no, that's not how it works. I think Sony gets 30%. Yeah, Sony gets 30% from the store, and Microsoft gets the rest. I think that's how that works, right? The deals will stay the deal, so Sony would make any profits off of, things bought in their store, sure. But the whole thing is that they're going to lose money from this deal. It's not even about exclusive. Even if everything was equal, even if Call of Duty was on PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, everything is equally equal, they're still losing money because Microsoft is making the 70, and Sony's only getting that 30. And every time Sony wants something, they got to go through Microsoft. They want some exclusive content. They can't have it now because they literally argued against Microsoft getting this deal done because they would have exclusive content. So they screwed themselves by saying, oh, if they do the deal, they're gonna have exclusive content, which is exactly what they've been doing. So now, when they do the deal, guess who doesn't get exclusive content as well? You, Sony, you just screwed yourselves. Now, they're gonna keep the current obligations, current contracts as is, right? So they will have some exclusive content as long as that contract exists. And then Microsoft said another 3 years or whatever, which is not 3 games. Remember, Call of Duty is turning into a biannual, probably, game. So they might get maybe 2 games. They'll still get Warzone, so that's all good. But if Microsoft is making all this money, they own Call of Duty, and Sony is just a third party at this point. They get some of the money, but like I said, it's just the store stuff. They get that exclusive content up to the whatever the deal was, 3 years plus the 3. No, it was 2 years, I think, plus the other 3, so another 5. Anyway, once that previous contract is up, Microsoft is going to give them the new contract, which is, oh yeah, we'll give you another 3 years. No more exclusive stuff. And really, it's because, see, Sony is so. I was listening to Jeff Grubb this morning, Gamepass Mornings, and he was saying Sony is they're savvy, they're smart, they know what they're doing, blah blah blah. And I was like, yes, but no, because if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, because they are burning bridges like crazy. And what Sony is doing, what Jim Ryan is doing, is relying on their relationships inside the CMA in order to get these concessions, right? Even if the CMA says, yo, boom, you got to do this, that, it's got to be perpetually on PlayStation as well, all things equal, everybody gets the same stuff, bloom, no exclusives, it can't be better on the Xbox, all this stuff, right? Xbox still wins. It doesn't even matter because they own it. They gonna make all the money, and people will automatically associate Call of Duty with Xbox. Period. They're gonna get the marketing. That's it. They can't be like PlayStation and the end of the Call of Duty. Not anymore. No, that's not how that works. And so these few little things that can change the public perception will happen. And even if Sony gets all the concessions that they want, it won't matter. They're still gonna lose. And that's the giant fear that Jim Ryan has right now. It's the giant fear that Sony has right now. Excuse me. And that's what's gonna happen, period. So it's just a waiting game. They're just it's a stalling tactic right now. They're trying to see if they can get anything, if anything. Like I said, they'll probably get some concessions, whatever. And Microsoft will be like, whatever, we're still gonna put it on PlayStation anyway, so it's like, that's not even a concession, we're giving you the rest of this generation for you to figure out stuff, you know. And the thing is, here's the thing, with Microsoft, Xbox changing the frequency of Call of Duty games to every other year, right? They can take one of those teams and create a new IP that is exclusive. They can make new exclusives. Now, I know Sony would be like, oh, any Activision games can't be exclusive. I was like, okay, you know what? You're getting out of hand. They're already out of hand right now. But they were specifically targeting Call of Duty. Call of Duty. We can't do nothing without Call of Duty. Call of Duty is God. Call of Duty. I mean, gee, it's sad. It really is sad. And I know people say sad as an insult or whatever, but I'm looking at Sony, and Sony used to be the king. They're not acting like kings right now. They're not acting like the champ. They're not acting like number one right now. They're acting like they're about to get their ass whooped. That's what they're acting like. And they're scared, and they don't want to get their ass whooped. That's what Sony's acting like right now. And it's entertaining at one hand, and it's sad that the CMA is kind of entangled into all of this corruption on the other hand. I just wish that things like this, I know it's pie in the sky, I'm an idiot, call me naive if you will, but I just wish that something like this would not be just possible, because it's like, yo, you guys are governing, you have your consumer, what does the CMA stand for? Consumer market fairness, or what? It's supposed to be about fairness for consumers, and everything that they have said about this deal and basically parroting what Jim Ryan has been saying is not that. It's the exact opposite. And it kind of, for me, it feels like politics. I hate politics because I know how much corruption there is in politics. Not everyone is corrupt in politics. There are some nice people, good people. But there's so much corruption in politics. That's what this reminds me of. And it makes me sick to my stomach. And it makes me sad because these are video games. This is video games. We're supposed to love video games. We're not supposed to be angry about a governing body doing playing dirty because of a sore winner. Sony is the sore winner right now. They're winning, but they don't want to lose, so they're gonna cry and act like spoiled brats. And I'm like, wow. And I gotta give props to like Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella and all these people at the top who are keeping their composure in these times and not going off the handle and be like, y'all motherflowers are full of shite. This is some bullshit. Let's go. And you know what I hope? This is what I hope. Let the deal get delayed, okay? Because it's gonna mess up Sony's whole plans. They can't say nothing. They can't do nothing. They can't promote how many exclusives and all that stuff. It's already evident with this rumor, right? So let the deal get delayed. Let this go to court. Let the CMA sue Microsoft. Let Microsoft be like, yo, lawyers, let's go. I want to see this in court. Yo, this is gonna be the best retelling of a story. This is gonna be in the history books of video games, where they're gonna be like, yo, did you see that movie? The Xbox versus PlayStation movie, or whatever they're gonna call it. I don't know. Console Wars Part 2, Console World War 2. I don't know. And I want this to go to court. I want Sony to be. There we go. had to get that gear in. I want Sony to be shown. I want the spotlight to be shown on Sony of all the dirt they've done for 20 years. I want that to be shown in the public, and I want the public perception to be Sony is an evil company. I want all the people who don't know this. I want all the people who are like, yo, PlayStation is number one. They got all the games, and that's all they know. They don't know nothing about the business practices. They don't go into the minutia that we know about, as video game fans. I want everybody to know how dirty Sony was, is, still is. And that's why I want this deal to be delayed as long as it needs to be in order for this court to happen. Sony versus Microsoft, or the CMA versus Microsoft. Then they got to go fact finding. okay, what, and then they got to get the files from Sony. Be like, all right, this is your business. That's gonna be Sony doesn't want that. That's the thing, right? Sony doesn't want to have to spill all the beans on what they have been doing for years, because that kind of happened with the Apple and Epic lawsuit, and some of the business practices of Sony came out, and that wasn't a good look for Sony. So imagine if the CMA sues Microsoft countersues, and they have to go digging deeply into Sony's business practices. Sony doesn't want that. They can't even put out a state of play right now, because it's gonna make them look bad, and it's gonna make the deal go through. So I'm patient. I'll wait for Call of Duty. I mean, we got basically 2 years anyway, until that deal is done. The existing contracts for PlayStation and stuff. I mean, that's just Call of Duty. We're talking about King. We're talking about all the other things. But I'm a patient man, and I will say that Microsoft is probably a patient company. And this deal is so big that they would wait that long if the CMAs try to pull some stuff. Worst case scenario, it's delayed for like a year or so, right? Because the CMA wanted da-da-da-da. Best case scenario, they do the preliminary, which is, I believe, in November. And then, no, I'm sorry, the preliminary I think is in January. And then the final ruling is in March or something like that. So that's the earliest we're going to find out what's the deal, March. So I think that Jim Ryan and Sony, they know that they can't block this deal, because they can't afford to have the spotlight showing on their dirty deeds. And so they're just kind of trying to put this out there, and it's a stalling tactic, like I said before, in order to figure out what they can do and try to get a foothold into that market, that Call of Duty market, if you will, because it's so important. So I think that's what it is. So whatever. I mean, whatever. I say it's all fun and games, and it truly should be, but it really does make me freaking angry when I think about that stuff. Even if it's like not real and it's just posturing, it's still not a good look. And I hate the disingenuous nature of what Sony's doing in the video game space. And I know like people like Zaire and other people that used to be Xbox and now they're ponies. They talk about he says be the behemoth that you are, right? He said that about Xbox, and now Xbox is being the behemoth, and now Sony is not. And the public perception for these companies is important. If a company is bad, just blatantly bad, right in your face bad, and they don't care, why would you mess with them? Especially if their games are going to be on PC. They're giving you an out. It's like, okay, Sony is being evil. I'm not going to buy a PlayStation. But since their games are coming to PC, Herman Hulse said the games of service day and date, other things up to a year. So it's like you just killed your console. You just killed part of your console market by announcing that. I hope you know that, because these ponies were grasping onto this narrative that you can only play it on PlayStation. It's no longer the case. There's no longer the truth. And so for the handful of exclusives that are worth playing on PlayStation, you don't need to play them on PlayStation. And you can play a better version on PC. And so at the end of the day, PlayStation is dying. Their console market is. And they don't know how to fix it. They're holding on to these old ways of thinking, old business models, and it's not, I cannot understand. If you are a company, a corporation with all these smart people, how are you not smart? How do you not see that the industry is changing? And it has been changing for 30 years, But you have to look at music, and then you have to look at movies, and then you look at video games. It's basically in that order. Music is the easiest one to change for some reason. And it happened with Napster and MP3s, right? So who buys albums? No one buys albums anymore. No one buys CDs. They don't even make CDs anymore. Okay, they probably do, but go to your store and find the CD section. Let me know where it is, because I don't know where it is. They have vinyls, but that's because that's a niche collector's thing, which is kind of cool, but still, that's ridiculous. It was like $30 for a record, which is a lot, because they used to be like, I think $7 to $12 for a full album. But that was back in the day. But these people, it's puzzling to me. Like, oh, these guys are rich and they're successful, so they must be smart. I'm like, okay, are they? Or are they just set in their ways and they said, oh, this is how you make money, let's just stick to this is how we been making money? I think that's part of it. I think part of Jim Ryan's success is that he's been doing this forever, and it's worked. But now the industry has changed, the business model has changed, and they haven't. So the same tricks don't work. And Microsoft figured out a way, based off of the MP3 music streaming stuff, based off of Netflix and Blockbuster, Netflix killing Blockbuster basically. And that's why I always make that comparison. Some of you guys don't understand that comparison, but I said it already before. A quick recap. Blockbuster, Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, yo, buy us, that we're cool. And Blockbuster said, nah, we're good, we don't want to buy you. And Netflix said, okay, we'll do it ourselves. And they did, and they closed Blockbuster down. And the analogy is that Netflix is Game Pass and Blockbuster is PlayStation. They are yielding, they are doing very little steps to be like Game Pass. Just like Blockbuster did very little steps, a little too late to be like Netflix. They did the same thing. They went with the mail-in rental stuff, just like Netflix. They copied Netflix exactly, but they still had stores. And no one cared, because Netflix already established their foothold in the market, and boom, Netflix was it. And guess what? Game Pass has established themselves as the best deal in gaming. If you have even if you don't have an Xbox, Game Pass is irresistible. It's undeniable what Game Pass is. Game Pass is in the vernacular of, yo, there's a new game coming out. Yo, first words out of people's mouth. Is it on Game Pass? You have a problem, competition to Game Pass, when the first words out of anyone's mouth is it on Game Pass? Yo, that new game is coming out. It's dropping on Friday. Is it on Game Pass? That's the first question everybody asks. It's the first thought that gets in your mind if you're a Game Pass subscriber. And so, that leads back to Call of Duty. It leads back to any other exclusives or third-party deals that they make for day and date in Game Pass. And that is the secret weapon. And, do they really have an argument in this whole thing? Do you think the CMA is corrupt? I do. It's so bad. And do you think it's just a bunch of hot air and posturing, or do you think, something's really going to come of it, man? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.